Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SavvyCast. This is Jamie, and I'm so thrilled that you are joining me for my first episode of 2023. I hope all of you had a wonderful end to 2022, and we are going to start the year off with an episode with my daughter, Ellie Hiller. She's my firstborn twin, and she is a registered nurse, and she also is currently working as a nutrition counselor for Vulcan Nutrition, and she's going to help us get on the right track, get started off in a good way. Ellie, thank you for taking time to join us today.
Hey, Mom, I'm excited to be the first one of 2023. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm thrilled, Ellie, because I'm just going to tell everyone. Ellie has helped her dad and me. We've already ordered some things. We've already got some good habits lined up. Ellie is not really selling anything today, but I did ask her. Her program is excellent. It's changing a lot of people's lives. And I did ask her, I said, Ellie, I always like to offer something when I have a guest to my followers, listeners, viewers. And she does have a special offer that if you're interested in 3 months of her fitness program, we'll mention that at the very end. But Ellie, go ahead and tell us what we're going to talk about today. We have a list of 10 what?
Yes. And I will say it's a nutrition program, not fitness, just to make sure they know.
I meant nutrition. I'm so sorry.
No. That's
okay. For those who might not know, Sean, her husband, is a PT, and he's Vulcan fitness, movement, performance, fitness, and Ellie is more of the nutrition. Well, Ellie, you are everything though. CrossFit athlete. I mean, y'all are just, my goodness, I can't keep up with everything y'all do.
I prefer to coach the nutrition side, but that would be the package will be individualized coaching. If you want to get, deeper into these 10 habits we're going to talk about and make it specific to you, then that's where you would get benefit out of this. Cause we're going to hit the general concept with these 10 habits that we're about to talk about. So it'll look a little bit different for everyone. But so what we're going to go over today is I racked my brain of the 10 health habits that are going to give you the best return on investment. And I really wanted to keep this very practical in the sense of like, what can people realistically do every single day that might just become so habitual that you don't even know you're doing these 10 things, right? Because if I were to list very complicated, complex things that you needed to do and check off every day, if you had to actually track it on a tracker, no one's really going to be consistent with that. And the name of the game when it comes to a healthy life from a longevity standpoint is, can you make it a habit so that you don't really even know you're doing it, right? Or you don't even have to exert as much willpower to get it done each day. So with that, we'll talk about these 3 health habits. And I've laid them out on a spectrum. So I'm going to start with, what's kind of the minimum effective dose in terms of this is just enough to see a clinically significant effect. And then we can talk about optimal, because there's definitely a range for everything. And I think to establish good, healthy habits, you need to just start with minimum effective dose. And everyone has different personalities. You have your extremists who want to just go all in and drink a gallon of water a day, when in reality, like, we could have just started with 80 ounces and you could have gotten the effectiveness there without killing yourself and stopping.
So what you're going to share, we'll notice a difference if we start at the lower end. And then for those who that's a motivating factor, then they'll gradually work their way. But then there are those like your dad and I, we just want to go in with gusto. And if you want to do that, you're going to share how to go to the high end of the spectrum.
Right. Because I think it's helpful. And certain people will gravitate to certain health habits that come very easily. Like, for example, working out for me is the easy one, right? I'd rather go all in on that. But maybe water intake is where I need to just stick with the minimum, just be really consistent. And then I don't have these huge ebbs and flows of having to reset because I can't sustain my habits. So So the 10 habits in no specific order are focus on getting 10,000 steps per day, preferably outdoors. Now that is the high end, 10,000. That's the
Mm-hmm.
optimal.
Yep.
Try to drink half your body weight in ounces of pure water and then build from there per day. Eat as close to your ideal body weight or actual body weight in protein as you can per day. The minimum is going to be started about 70 to 80% of your body weight. Okay.
Okay.
Track a day or a week of eating for awareness purposes. Just 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
That's the max. Go to bed and wake up.
Ellie, you mean when we're tracking this, you want us to track just protein for this for number 3?
No, like a food log, right? It doesn't have to be in an app. You could just put it on a sheet of paper, right? Like write down everything you eat in a day. And then at the end of the day, go back and look at it, right? Including all the times you walked by the M&M bowl and grabbed M&Ms and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's an awareness exercise.
Okay.
So go to bed and wake up at the same time every day with a 15 to 20 minute buffer,
Mm-hmm.
give or take, and aim for 7 hours minimum per night. This is the minimum.
Okay.
Total hours of sleep, by the way, not just in bed, but asleep.
Yeah. That's the hard part. Yeah.
Buy a fitness tracker and ignore the part about calories burned in a workout. We'll talk about that.
Ellie, is a Apple Watch, the fitness on that's sufficient?
Well, so the caveat is that I don't care about the fitness part in terms of calories burned because it's so inaccurate anyway. We'll dive into this in a second. And then buy a protein powder you love because life gets busy.
Mm-hmm.
Find a tribe for your fitness. And then number 9 is take a week of trying to get 800 grams of fruit and veggies in your diet per day. And then number 10 is set your intentions for the day in the morning, right? So, and then real quick, last preface before we get into this, these are not to create a lot of restriction. And this isn't to be anxiety provoking, right? Like I want you to find some of these and really try to focus on them. But these are just general, like 10,000 foot view, really good health habits. It's not like you have to do all of these things and get legalistic with it. I just want to say that because people can think we're kind of fear mongering into trying to do the right things and check the boxes. And that's not what I want to be about. But okay, so you want me to just dive in?
Yes. And I did want to ask, because a lot of us do have Apple Watches. Will an Apple Watch suffice? I know it will for the steps. Will it suffice for all of these things that we're tracking fitness and all of that?
Yeah. Apple Watches are great. And there's a ton of different tools out there. Garmin, Apple Watch.
Can you give us a list and then I'll include that in the show notes? Because if people don't have an Apple Watch or a fitness tracker, can you just maybe suggest a few things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the big things I look for when I'm trying to find a fitness tracker, because I've used every single one probably on the market. And we'll definitely discuss that when we get to that bullet point, because there's a lot I want to say about what's not beneficial and what is. But okay, so the first thing, 10,000 steps per day. The reason I titled it like this rather than just move more is because we hear 10,000 all the time. Like, have you heard of that? Get 10,000 steps per day?
Yes. And I try that on my watch and I don't close the circles that often. Yeah. I usually get to 8,000. It's hard to get 10,000.
Yeah, it is so hard. It's funny because people think that that's just everywhere in the literature, that 10,000 steps per day is like the once you get there, you start losing weight. That's not the case. It actually came from one Japanese study, the 10,000 step goal. And so then we just kind of like took that and said, this is the gold standard. It's very helpful. I can promise you anyone who gets 10,000 steps a day is going to lose weight or is going to notice benefits. But the reason I did that is because 10,000 steps per day would be awesome. But let's say that you're a person who's an accountant and you're sitting down all day. If you track your steps without intentionally trying to change anything, you're probably going to be around 3,000 per day. Now that is like very little. That's nothing.
Yeah.
And if you were to convert 10,000 steps a day into miles, that's about 4 to 5 miles per day. So that's a lot. And so what I tell people to do is, like, going back to the tracker, buy a pedometer off Amazon or a fitness tracker and just start to establish your baseline. Just see where you fall, right? And let's say that your average comes out to be about 3,000 steps per day. You would be a sedentary individual for sure. And from there, aim to make 4,000 your goal, right?
Mhm.
And see what's required to add an additional 1,000 steps per day. Maybe
Mhm.
that's parking far away, from your office and taking the stairs. Maybe that's all that's required to get an additional 1,000. And then from there, you can keep building up to maybe 7,000 or 8,000 or even 10,000.
Mhm.
But trying to make that jump from sedentary to very active is very
Mhm.
unrealistic in my opinion. So what I tell people to do is find your baseline and then intentionally build from there.
Okay. Okay.
But the reason I want to get the reason I put this first is because overall activity level is more indicative of overall weight loss than the exercise regimen that you choose. So,
Oh, you mean just everyday activity?
yes. So,
Wow.
and a lot of people don't know that, but it's actually a very freeing thing when you can understand that because you realize you don't have to go work out and do 2 Iron Tribe classes per day. Like
Wow.
working out is so beneficial, right? Like in conjunction with a high activity level, you have a recipe for really really good health. But someone who is very active and maybe has like a nursing job or a construction job where they're moving around compared to someone who's an accountant, they're at a much lower risk for obesity and weight gain comparatively to someone who sits all day. So
Right. If someone gets, now I know the value of strength training, especially for women, especially for perimenopausal and menopausal women. But if
mhm.
you get 10,000 steps per day and you can't really fit much more in, are you pretty okay? Or do you
um,
still need to figure out how to do a little weight training?
Yeah, so it depends. Like, in what aspect are you asking if they're okay? Like cardiovascularly, maybe because
Okay.
they're moving a lot, but from a skeletal muscle standpoint,
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
not
This is totally
right,
different. Yeah.
right. If we were looking at strictly someone who does weight train, maybe 2 to 3 times per week, but their activity level is really low, increasing their steps would
Hmm.
provide really good results from a metabolic and then just fat loss perspective,
Got it.
because they also have muscle and they're working on muscle. So 10,000 aiming for more than your current baseline of steps per day. So and then one thing I wanted to note on that is a lot of people are tempted during this time of year to just eat less and restrict their calories.
Hmm.
But something to keep in mind is if you really restrict your calories, your body subconsciously lowers your activity level in terms of non-exercise activity.
Hmm.
So, which in turn makes you burn less calories. So
Doesn't
it
your basal metabolic rate drop when you stop eating? Because it says, oh, I'm being starved, so let me not burn as many calories.
right, like our
Okay.
bodies are wired to survive and
Mhm.
they're super resilient. So it's really smart. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna notice that you're moving less, but your desire to go move your body is actually gonna diminish as well, just because your body's like, oh, I don't have the calories to go on a walk, so I don't
Yeah.
really want to. So it's just something to keep in mind, like a little
Yeah.
plus for not restricting calories.
Right.
Uh,
Well, and that is very significant. I'm glad you brought that up because we're about to enter, and I know many other people in other churches or just non-church, 21 days of prayer and fasting. So a
mhm.
lot of people in January are restricting or fasting. So do these steps still apply if someone's doing a pretty heavy fast?
Oh, yeah, that's a nuanced question. I'm not gonna answer that just because I don't it's so specific
It's
to what
personal and
right.
specific. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to
Just
be
be
willing.
aware. Be
Right,
aware.
right.
Okay. Okay.
Um, okay, so the next one, start with half of your body weight in ounces of pure water per day. So that's the minimum effective dose. Now that is going to depend on the individual, but it's a really good place to start.
Mhm.
If you're a 130-pound female, that's what 65 ounces per day,
Mhm.
and it just gives you a way to quantify because if you don't quantify you're probably gonna under drink, right? But then one thing too that's very very simple, I tell people, I'm like, look at your urine. If your urine is clear, you're probably doing very very
Yeah.
good, right? So that's a very simple way that you can see if
Mhm.
you're hydrated or not. But starting with half your body weight in ounces and building up from there, the benefits are endless. I'm not going to get into all of them, but there's a reason that drinking water is an absolute foundational element of a healthy lifestyle. Um,
Now, Ellie, that you said pure water. Like I do electrolytes every day. Can you add your electrolytes, or does it have to be that much and totally nothing but water?
you You absolutely can add electrolytes. We could do a whole podcast on electrolytes
Yeah.
because I think people are brilliant in marketing them. We get electrolytes through our diet. A lot of the reason why sports drinks and electrolyte powder and drinks came into being is because of endurance athletes, and they can't really eat when they're on a bike or running, right? So it's easy to give them electrolytes in a liquid form. And
Mm-hmm.
so general population took that and started to think, oh, we need these liquid electrolytes, just like the endurance athletes, when in reality, like
Oh,
it's like apples to oranges. And I'm not saying electrolytes are bad at all. It's just funny now that it's just so infiltrated into the
oh.
into the market with just these powdered and electrolytes in general population, thinking we need them when we're not on a bike for 8 hours out of a day. So
Oh, well, then I don't guess I need them. I was just, I
they're
know, because seriously, I'm not in it, but I took them because someone, I think at Pilates, I was having toe cramps
uh-huh.
and they said to take electrolytes. So,
No, and electrolytes are good. I'm just a big fan of trying to just like bring awareness to kind of things that might just be a little bit
yeah,
in. We've gotten in the weeds with things that aren't as
yeah.
big a deal. Just for perspective, the average American takes in about 3,200 milligrams of sodium per day.
Oh,
And really, we only need, from a physiological standpoint, about 700 milligrams. So, through your
oh,
diet
okay.
alone, you're getting in a lot of electrolytes, but they're not bad. They're just not absolutely necessary. So I like to tell
Okay.
people, focus on drinking pure water, and then
Okay.
the electrolytes can come next.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 3, eat as close to your ideal or actual body weight in protein as you can per day. So the reason I have ideal and actual is because if you're an overweight individual, this just would need to be your ideal body weight, because
Mm-hmm.
that would skew the number a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's say, just for numbers purposes, you're a 130-pound female again. You would want to work your way up to eating close to 130 grams of protein per day. That's your body weight.
Mm-hmm.
Start though at about 70% of that, which I can't think off the top of my head. That's probably around like 80 grams of protein.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Can
again,
we drink it? Drink it and eat it?
so let's go ahead and do the next one with that, number 7, which is buy a protein powder you love, because a lot
Oh,
of
I'm
people.
sorry. That's right. You
No,
had that
no,
on.
no, no,
Okay.
that's good. Let's just
Because I
combine.
have a hard time meeting that if I don't do a powder
Mhm.
or a bar or whatever.
Yeah, so that's a good question. In an ideal world, we would get it through whole food only.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I said, because life gets busy, you need a protein powder, because you're going to be
Yeah.
traveling. You're going to have times where you don't have complete control over the- getting pure chicken breast or turkey.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you can absolutely get it through protein powder. You just need to be aware of the fact that you're going to be more satisfied after your meals if you get it from whole food sources as opposed
Mm.
to a powder. So,
Oh, okay.
but that's a good question. So, and I don't want to get too in depth about why protein is so important, because we've kind of hit on that in prior podcasts.
Mhm.
But that, if I had to pick one from this list that has the most ripple effect in all other areas of your day to day, it
Mm.
would be this.
The
So
protein. Mhm.
protein, yeah, it just has the capacity to change so much from a what you crave standpoint, from a
Mhm.
fullness, your ability to go between meals without getting super like ravenously hungry.
Right.
There's just so many benefits. So that's the one that I would really, if you're kind of confused on where to start, that's a really, really probably the biggest ROI place you could start if you're not already doing that.
Okay, that's great. And also, as a postmenopausal woman, protein is so important in stabilizing our blood sugar and building muscle.
Oh yeah.
Because Ellie, isn't it pretty impossible to build muscle without protein?
Well, yeah, protein is the building, the
Block.
acids are the building block for
Okay.
skeletal muscle. So yeah, if you're working out, what people don't notice is, think about, is if you're working out, you're just tearing the muscle down during the workout. the,
Mm-hmm.
the benefit comes after, when you're replenishing your body with the nutrients it needs to restore that torn tissue in the muscle. So yeah, protein's absolutely vital to building muscle. It's a building, amino acids are a building block for it. So
Awesome.
the next one, this is kind of controversial, but track track a day, if not a week, of eating, whether it be in an app or whether it be on just a piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
for food, for awareness purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really valuable, because the in our food environment right now, we really don't know what we're eating. Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
really don't. Like, there are just so many chemicals, and now there's the ability to just pack so much calories into one food item because it's not real food, because it's manufactured, that we really just truly don't know what we're putting in our bodies. And so I think it can
Mhm.
be really helpful from an awareness standpoint to just say, oh wow, like, you know, to know that this amount of meat or beef jerky is about 10 grams of protein.
Mhm.
And then when you calibrate your mind to know that, then you don't have to track long term.
Okay. What would you consider the best? I mean, I know my Fitness Pal's super easy.
I love my Fitness Pal. There's a bunch of different ones out there. If you put them in the App Store, it'll show up. But my
Okay,
Fitness
well,
Pal,
I'll get your recommendations and we'll put those in the show notes as well. Because some of us just aren't in this world and would love, maybe to kick the tires on several. So,
right, right. There's another one called Fat Secret. I kind of hate that name, but that's one, or chronometer or something. So
um,
I'll give you a few names, but
okay.
again, this isn't to think, oh man, I eat so much food, I need to restrict. This is truly like, oh, how much fiber did that banana have?
Yep.
And then use that awareness to say, this is how long I felt full after eating this much protein. Wow, that was really good for me. Let me replicate that tomorrow. Or
Yeah.
I ate this candy bar and it did nothing for me. I was hungry again 30 seconds later. It had relatively no protein, only carbs. That's why I wasn't full, right? So
Yep.
it's really truly an awareness thing.
Right. Okay.
All right, number 5, go to bed and wake up at relatively the same time each day,
Mm,
aiming for 7 total hours of sleep in bed. So,
right.
um, there's a lot of evidence that shows one of the biggest, most important things you can do regarding sleep and overall health is to have a set wake and bedtime routine, because
Mm,
our body operates on a biological clock, and it's
hmm
called, you know what it's called? Your
circadian rhythm.
yes, yes, perfect.
That
So
I owe that to my sleep number app. I'm telling you. And I know younger people, it may not be in your budget. A sleep number, it tells you how you breathe. It tells you your score. Like last night, I had a sleep score of 86, which was phenomenal.
hmm,
Other day, so anyway, and it tracks your circadian. It's amazing. So I totally get what you're saying, and I think it's
does
so
it
important.
tell you sleep stages? Deep
Yeah,
sleep?
I think it does. It goes into a whole lot of detail. And even when you're scrolling through, adjusting your number. I was having back pain. I thought I was going to have to come see Sean. And I adjusted from 35 up to 80. And as I was adjusting, it would tell me on each number, your average sleep score at this setting is blank. So, I mean, it tells you if you're worried about sleep, it's worth every penny because
Yeah,
it's
and
very insightful.
if you're someone who doesn't want to buy a fitness tracker, one of the main reasons I tell people to buy an Apple Watch is to monitor your sleep. So if you just want to buy the bed instead, then that's
Oh,
cool.
I didn't know. So the Apple Watch monitors sleep as well?
Yeah, Apple, Whoop, Garmin, Fitbit. That's one of the
Oh.
main reasons that you want one. So if your bed does it, then that's awesome.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, that's new to me. I didn't know that Apple had a sleep. So, and everyone, we'll put all of this in show notes. We'll also put protein powder recommendations, bar, just all of these little details. We'll put that in the show notes. So,
Yes.
all right.
And going back to circadian rhythm, that's a catchy thing. Like, we hear about it all the time, but the reason it's important is because it's intrinsically tied to your immunity, your digestion, your release of melatonin, and even just metabolism and hormones. Because it's the time frame on which our body operates. Like,
Mhm.
our body releases melatonin on a schedule, on according to our circadian rhythm. And if you're going to bed at 12 p.m. one night, 7 p.m. another night, if you're all over the place, your
Mhm.
body's just like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
I'm so out of whack. And it does lead to a bit more stress in your body, which does cause hormonal, have hormonal implications. So even just from like not being susceptible to whatever your child brings home from daycare, going to bed and waking up at a consistent time really can help minimize your risk of
Well,
combi.
and I do want to point out, and I know every married couple can relate to this. if your partner, if your spouse has a different cycle, like Zane is later and I'm earlier to bed, earlier to rise, make accommodations. If there's, yeah, I mean, you just have to work on getting on a consistent schedule for yourself. And, sometimes, he'll say, I'm going to sleep upstairs where I can get some good sleep because I'm popping up at 5 a.m. And, we are aware that it's always good to sleep in the same room, but sometimes, you have to,
Right.
especially if you're deprived, young couples with new babies, you've just got to do what you can do to get your sleep to function.
Yes. Yes. And at a certain point, you have to, with health in general, we have to just be like, we have to release ideal, because if we're trying to chase ideal all the time,
Yeah.
you're gonna hate being healthy. And
Mhm.
sometimes a good night might be just getting in bed before midnight because of a baby, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is again like stuff that's gold standard. But
Yeah.
one thing, just from a practical standpoint, I don't know if you do this at all, but one thing that can really help put this into play in terms of going to bed at a certain time is starting a wind down routine. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can now set on your iPhone. There's a alert that you can get your Apple Watch every night, or your iPhone, to tell you, okay, at 8:15 every night, I want you to remind me to start winding down. And
Oh.
you can set how long you want your wind down to be. So for me, my goal is to be in bed, lights out by 9 o'clock. So my phone, I know I need 45 minutes to start winding down my routine. So my phone goes off at 8:15 and it says start winding down.
Oh.
And it's really helpful because I know it triggers me to say, okay, now I'm going to get in the shower. I'm going to take my hot shower or my hot
Yeah.
bath, which
Mhm.
really helps, which helps
Mhm.
improve your deep sleep.
Yeah.
And then I do a few stretches and I read. Right. And at that point, my phone immediately goes on do not disturb. So you're not going to get any.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. So the phone, if you download that, it'll shut off after the wind down.
Yeah, it's not even an app, which is really cool. I can send you the instructions on how to do it so you can put it in the show notes. But
Oh, yes, please. That's fabulous because honestly, you can get so busy that you look up and it's 9:30 because I do try to go to bed around 9, but sometimes I get busy and forget.
right,
So that's a great tip.
right, it streamlines it. You don't have to think about it.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
working on my computer and all of a sudden it says start to wind down. I'm like, okay, I'm shutting my computer. I'm gonna get in the shower. So
Oh,
uh,
that's fabulous.
I want to say it's under accessibility, but I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So that's a good way to make this habit very streamlined. Okay, so the next one, buy a fitness tracker and ignore the part about calories burned in a workout. That's very important. I want to talk about that. But the main things that you want to make sure that your tracker does is does it track your resting heart rate, right? So that
Mhm.
you can see trends over time, because that is one major um, sign of improved cardiovascular health, is if your resting heart rate is either goes down over time from a not good place to a better place, or if
Mhm.
it's staying consistent. And when you get
Okay.
sick, you'll notice your heart rate is higher, your
Yep.
resting heart rate is higher. So you can kind of predict, like, am I getting sick? Is my respiratory rate higher? Is my resting heart rate higher? And you'll notice too, after you drink alcohol, you'll
Mhm.
see the markers that change as well, from a sleep stages standpoint, resting heart rate, and respiratory rate standpoint. So that's just really good from a just learning your body standpoint. And then you want to make sure it tracks your sleep. So that's a big thing, like we talked about earlier, sleep stages and total time asleep. And
Is
then
HRV because I'm looking on my sleep number app.
yeah,
Heart rate 65, HRV 157, breath rate 16. I don't really know what all that means, but it tracks
yeah.
something.
HRV's gotten really big recently, but most people don't know what to do with it. So it really, that one, I don't use that one. It's definitely something that you can use to predict, like, am I getting sick or am I recovered, heart rate variability. But mostly the ones that are going to be helpful to people on a day-to-day basis are heart rate and then sleep.
I
So
say that's good because it said, and this is what you said. It says, "Good afternoon, Jamie. Your breath rate impacted your sleep IQ score last night. Winding down before bed tonight might improve your sleep quality." So, yeah,
right,
you're right on track.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So we'll put this in the show notes, but some of the ones I like are Garmin watches, Fitbit, Apple watches, and then Whoop, WHOOP. That's a really big one. Uh,
Oh.
it gives you like a recovery score, and like Aura rings, if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
So those are all great. Really, you're not going to go wrong if you buy a fitness tracker. It's probably going to be doing all of those things. So,
Awesome.
but I want to hit real quick on ignoring the part about calories burned during a workout. I did a post on this on my Vulcan Instagram, and it got a ton of good feedback. And I thought people knew this, but I think I underestimated how many people actually care about the calories they burn in a workout. It is so wrong. Whatever they tell you you burn in a workout is not indicative of how effective that workout was. Because let's say, for example, that you go to Iron Tribe and you have a strength training day.
Mm-hmm.
We know that that is so good for you from a muscular standpoint, but your heart rate is not going to get very high in that, as opposed to if you were going and doing, a high intensity class. So your watch tells you how many calories you burn based off of your heart rate. And so if you do an hour-long strength training session and your heart rate never gets over 112 beats per minute, it might say you burn 50 calories in the whole hour. When in reality, that workout was far more effective than how your watch is quantifying it. But we look and say, dang it, now I got to go run 6 miles. And then as well, like, let's say you're a very out of shape individual, and so your heart rate is super, super high during a high intensity workout. Just because you're very deconditioned, it's going to tell you might have burned 600 calories when, the person next to you who's fit only burns 100. So it's because they're healthier. So it's just very, it
So
can
really just ignore it.
Yeah, ignore it. You can turn it on just to I like tracking my workouts, but don't be married to the calories burned, because it's just not, it's not going to tell you if your workout was effective or not.
Well, it's so funny. So many, and a lot of them are my friends, and it's just cute. They'll put at the end of a workout, especially if it's like on the Peloton, they'll take a picture of their calories burned and
It's
put the fire emoji. And I'm like, well, that's great. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's motivating, but that again is what perpetuates cardio bunnies and making us think that cardio is the only effective way to work.
Right.
Okay. We're almost done. So we got number 7. We've already talked about that. Buy a protein powder you love. Really just try to buy either like a whey-based protein powder. That's the best one if your stomach can tolerate it. But then they also make good plant-based versions as well. Like a pea protein blend is great. If you are using collagen though, you want to make sure that, if that is your only source of protein powder, you want to make sure that you're hitting, your body weight minus whatever you intake through your collagen powder in protein. So like if you're a 115-pound woman and you consume 15 grams of collagen protein per day, just subtract that out and you need to hit about 100 grams remaining from like food or whey or pea protein, just because collagen is not a complete protein. So just be aware of that, but that's a whole discussion.
And do you use a protein powder for baking?
Yeah. I'm a texture person. I don't love the texture of protein powder with baking.
Yeah.
It depends. There's so many different kinds. Some people love it. I just prefer to make smoothies. I think it's easy and
yeah.
And then you don't really taste the grainy factor of protein in a smoothie. Okay, number 8. This one is really important to me. Find your tribe when it comes to fitness. I know that's a catchphrase, but it is so powerful when you find a fitness modality that you love, but then also you have people that are expecting you to show up in the classes, and that you can make it more of a communal thing rather than, exercise is what I have to do because I have to work off my food, or I have to go kill myself alone in a gym. Make it fun. Like, I know you really fell in love with strength training when you found a community and coaches that expected you to be there and that you enjoy working out with. And I think that is ingrained in us as human beings, to have our tribe. Like, we're tribal, communal people. Like, we're made to function in relationships, and that's where we thrive. And so I think that's a really good way to really try to look at your fitness and find something you love with people that you love, and you'll be more consistent.
That's so true. And I know you and Sean, y'all got a great tribe. Zane and I went to a party with one of our small group couples last night, Lauren and John. Oh, yeah. And every person there, and I mean, there were probably 50 people that go to Torque. It's this. I
Yes.
think there's an NFL coach who coaches. They were so close. It was like at a family reunion, and I'm like, oh my goodness, these people love each other, and they talk about working out and whatever. And I thought, that's really special, and
Yeah.
I know y'all have that. Yeah, I think
It,
that's good, and you may have to go several places
right.
to find that, but I have that in Pilates. I will say my method that I'm doing right now at Iron Tribe is sort of solo, and you don't really get that. And I'm recognizing that's a problem. It's sort of like personal training, and you don't get that as much. I mean, you have that camaraderie with your coach, which is
Mhm.
good, but I see that it can go beyond that to a
And you're playing off the FOMO thing where,
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
was a workout this past Christmas week in Birmingham when it was 9 degrees. We had a workout at our gym, 12 days of Christmas, and it had running in it.
Oh,
There were 20 plus people that showed up to that class in 9-degree weather, touching barbells and rope climbs and running because no one wanted to miss out on this big
yeah,
12 days of Christmas thing. And I can promise you, people would not be running in the cold alone. So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a powerful aspect to it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good. And most gyms will let you try like a day or two or a week or so. So just
yeah,
anyone listening or what, don't feel like you have to
no,
sign up, just kick the tires.
shop around, like make it a
Yep.
game, like literally shop.
Yep.
Go try. Everywhere wants you to step through their doors, and they'll give you a free day. So, um,
Mhm.
play around with it and talk to people that are already doing things that they love. Okay, this next one, we're not going to dive too deep into it, but this is the optimal 800 grams of fruit and veggies per day. Now, I want to
Okay,
preface.
you're gonna have to change grams. I don't do grams. You remember mom's 57.
Yes,
What
so
what would that how do
I
you
as it
what
was coming out of my mouth, I'm like, I could have worded this better, but that's just a way to quantify. Grams would be weight grams, right? So
how do
if
you measure that though?
you would have to have a food scale, and you would just
Oh,
do
I
it.
have a scale.
Yeah. So you would do it just a few days. This isn't forever,
Oh,
but
okay.
a better way to phrase it is aim for a cup of vegetables at 2 meals per day. So two out
Oh,
of
that's easy. Oh my
so
goodness.
what it does is that's your minimum. Like that's your minimum. Try to eat as many vegetables and fruits as you possibly can, right? Like the more whole foods you fill up in your diet, the less
Yep.
space you're going to have for the other stuff. So
Right.
instead of telling someone stop drinking alcohol and stop eating sugar, just
Mhm.
tell people that there's no limit to vegetables and fruit. And then what
Mm.
you'll find is they're going to start eating better just by nature of filling their diet up with the better the high quality stuff. So
Now,
um
aren't veggies a little bit more preferable than fruit because of the sugar content?
yes, but what you'll find is people can only eat so much of these things. So it's not
Yeah.
like no one ever got fat off of fruit only. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so so really you can only eat so much before your body is like, please just stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, obviously veggies would be preferable, but I'm a number person and I know you're not. But I like to say, okay, my minimum is 500 grams of fruit and veggies. I have to eat more than that, right? And then after I hit my minimum, I can eat as much as I want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's just one. I don't want to dive too into that, but it has a lot of good implications. So the final one, number 10, set your intentions for the day.
Mhm.
This one has been really, really impactful for me personally. I'm a big journaler, and it doesn't have to be long or elaborate, but in the morning, you really do have to remind yourself of what's important to you and what you need to do to accomplish that.
Yep.
And again, it really is simple. Truly, like in the morning, I'll write down 2 or 3 sentences of, my intention for the day, and maybe like what is one thing I can do better today that yesterday
Mhm.
I maybe didn't do so well. And it gets everything out of your head and onto paper, and it helps you clarify where you need to channel energy and focus. And for me, it has been so powerful. So that's something that I encourage people to do is journal in the morning. If you have a quiet time, you can spend 10 minutes doing it and watch it change your day. It will really impact you. So
Well, that is wonderful. And I know Dad gave all of you a great dream planner, but I just found this at Target. It's the calendar, but it's got keeping balance, daily habits, weekly routines, monthly rituals, annual actions, and just jotting down what you said can just sort of give you a baseline for your progress. Dad did a small group lesson one time about just get 1% better every day in your marriage, or get 1% better every day in your steps.
Right.
I mean, that's just a good, because anybody, 1% is easy, but then in a week you've done 7%. So yeah,
Right.
I think that's a great tip.
But you have to clarify, and you have to say, okay, if I want to get 1% better in my marriage, what's a practical way I can do that? Maybe it's writing my husband a little sticky note of how much I appreciate him and leaving it on the fridge once a month. Like, but if you don't, you can say 1% better, but if you don't make it practical so that it manifests, then you're not going to get better. So I think journaling for me is how I put it on paper and say, this is my intention and how I'm going to make it an action in my life.
Right.
So, yeah, but that's the 10 things, very generalized, but I really would encourage you to just find one or two, start there, and then build up, and it really will have a great return.
And we will list these. Ellie, I want you to send it to me in the exact wording that you've articulated. So we'll include the list, and then we'll include all these other details, and then Ellie, just quickly tell what you're offering those who might want to dig deeper and do the 3 month. Go ahead and tell what you're offering.
Yes. So my individual coaching model is monthly. So what I do is I'm going to take $50 off the first month coaching rate if you tell me that you found us through the SavvyCast. So you can just put, I'll link our contact form in the show notes. Okay. And you can just put, how did you hear about us? You can put SavvyCast or Jamie Torrance or whatever you want there. And then I'll know, okay, you get $50 off your first month. So,
so that's 3 months of coaching, because it's a 3 month minimum, which I agree. I think you're going to see results and get in the groove swing.
Right. It's not a diet. Like, I'm here to help you navigate your life and your job and how we can improve your health habits and not put you on a rigid plan, but just help as a coach walk you through, help wherever you are at life, meet you where you're at. So with that, 1 month isn't enough time. So 3 month commitment. And then after that, you can cancel. First month is $50 off. And then the next 2 months are back at the normal coaching rate. So, okay.
And Ellie, for those who don't, well, and it really doesn't matter where you live because most of this is virtual, correct?
Most of my clients are remote, but if you are in Birmingham, I prefer to do the initial consult in person. So our clinic,
okay, perfect.
Yeah, our clinic is in Mountain Brook. So
that's okay. And then also, I think, didn't you say that Sean is offering if for these particular clients who use the SavvyCast code, there was one more little perk.
Yeah, so I'll send you his contact form as well, but he does a free injury screen. So if you have a nagging injury or have had something that's you're just kind of curious about, you don't have to have a doctor's script to come for the first visit. So so he'll do an injury screen for you if you have any questions or just want to see if there's anything you can prehab. Maybe you don't have an injury but want to prevent injury. So
that's wonderful. Well, thank you. And Ellie, this is very practical and very doable, and it's very encouraging because I've got my list and I'm going to start. I'm going to change the strap on my Apple Watch because I haven't been using it like I should, and I'm going to hit the ground running. So thank you, and thanks to all of you watching and listening. And again, check out the show notes for all of the details. And until next time, I hope you have a very, very fabulous rest of your day.